All right, there we go.
Hey, yo, my bad. Because the
No,
thing only gives you an hour to
yeah, it only
record. I
gives an
forgot
hour
about
to
that shit.
talk. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I used to spin that shit would happen to me, and I would be fucking drunk spinning for everyone and shit. But
Yeah,
oh, we're talking about our lingo, right? Okay, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
used to read it in both ways, and I kind of like both. You know, it just depends on how the if the artist, if the writer knows how to do it, then if they could write with, because it's more trickier trying to do the narrator talking like us, and then the dialogue like that, because
Mm,
I kind of like Zoot Suit. You know what I mean? Like he narrates, but he's talking like he's talking like a Zoot Suiter. He's talking,
mhm.
but he's also telling the story, and you got the dialogue of how they are. And then some people write where they're writing in proper English, but then the dialogue turns to the whole, then you get the lingo of the person talking and whatnot.
Mhm.
But I remember when I would
Uh,
always, when I'd be writing in college, they would have us italicize it. You know what I mean? The word, the like if you put Heina or firme or use one of those words, like you italicize it. You know what I mean? So then they can know that it's a word they can look up in like a glossary or whatnot. Because I remember they made me do like a glossary. You know what I mean? Like, hey, can you do like a glossary and shit like
mm,
that? So I had a separate sheet of paper with the glossary of all the fucking words that I was writing, for the essay for them, because a lot of those people, they didn't know, they didn't know what
mm.
the fuck they were reading. They just, you know what I mean? And they like
Yeah,
it. They're, and I know if
that's
that
cool.
class received it well, there's more out there that would receive it well, too.
Mm,
So I think we have an interesting story and lifestyle, and it needs love, you know, it needs love,
yeah,
you know. Hopefully one day,
yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to see it in our generation. If not, all you could do is just kind of mold the children, to realize who they are, and their background and where they came from, their ancestors, and don't forget about the issues, and the joy, and the love, and the
Mhm.
discomfort, or whatever that was going on with your people throughout the decades, being in this
Yeah,
country, and always remember that. Don't let them get so complacent on what they see, what's going on right now. You know what I mean? Also,
yeah.
let them be aware, hey, this, that, and another, whatever you decide to tell your child, because everyone has their limitations on, what they want to project to their children. So,
Oh,
yeah.
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 I just feel like, as a Latino, as a Chicano myself, I would like to see more stories of back when I didn't even exist yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More stories on the movimiento, like actual stories, like
Mm-hmm.
as in the point of view of a youngster in that era, in the
Yeah.
point of view of a father, of a family within that era, within the era of the walkouts. We
Mm-hmm.
only have the
Yeah.
walkouts, the actual, nonfiction story that we have, documented.
Yeah.
But within storytelling, we don't have any of those stories that people can actually come up, and even people that have spoken to the youngsters that were there at the time, being
Yeah.
youngsters, like get their point of view. What was going through their mind? What movement within the community were they trying to start that maybe might have gone shut down? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Alter realities. This the possibilities are endless when we
Yeah.
talk about going back in time and trying to bring it to a modern day people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think like with that, I mean, the younger generation of writers, they need to be enticed some way,
Mm,
so they could go ahead and get those interviews with their abuelos that are still alive. You know what I mean? You need our grandparents, a lot of them are filled with a lot of stories, man. They got
oh yeah.
stories. I mean, just sit down with your grandma for 1 hour, grab your Modelo, your Corona, whatever the fuck you
Mm,
want to, sit down next to your grandpa and just be like, hey, tell me about when you were a kid. How was school? What did you do when you get off school? And they're going to tell you a story. My grandpa, he's always telling me stories and stuff like that. And I remember that shit. I remember it, and I have to, he's going to be turning 90 next month. So
wow.
I need to talk to him. He was in the Korean War, you know what I mean? So he was around
Oh,
that era, and he had his whole kind of like what he went through. You know what I mean? And he was in the military. He was a barber. He was in a trio. people play in the trio. So he has a lot of different experiences, especially from that era. So he's like a person that I need to talk to. I need to get a hold of. I need to record that shit. You know what I mean? Like, remember back in the day before we had like internet and all that, they would tell the stories and the life through generations, through tales. You know, they would do that, and, and that's how we would get it. You know, that's how it would move forward. You know, and then of course we started getting all this technology and shit like that. But now that we have this technology, it should be even more easier. You know, we should be able to take that time out and do that. You know, but it would take those young writers, and it would have to take those young writers to maybe go to a workshop. You know, remember, like I told you, yeah, there needs to be workshops out there, because if those writers go to those workshops, they can meet a professor, an instructor, or whatever that will let them know, hey, you guys have stories right in your damn household. You got stories right down the street from you. All your tias, your primos, those are all stories right there, man. Start talking to your people, record them, you know, put a little thing and just chop it up, get into their head, you know, find out what was going on at that time, because that's the only close to hard evidence that we have of back then is their stories. You know what I mean? Because once they're gone, who's going to tell their story? I can't fictionize it. You know, I can't. You know what I mean? I can't do that, because I want to tell it the way it really was. You know, I'm not going to pull some shit out of my ass like, oh yeah, and we had a spaceship in 1959, but the government took it away. You know what I mean? You know, some awkward bullshit like that. You know, I got to spit those right facts, because I need to be validated so I don't look like a fucking ass. You know what I mean? So we need to, those younger writers, you know, those younger writers that are in school right now are the ones that have the opportunity to grasp it. Take it now. Get it now. You know, while you're quarantined. Perfect fucking time. Write those stories down. Write those stories down. Write notes. Take notes. Even if you don't want to take the full story, take a little bit of notes and use it to develop a fiction one, but based off their experience, you know, to change it, you know, names and places if you want. Be creative, you know, tap into your creative side. You know, maybe they're telling you a story of when they lived in fucking Nebraska, but you just make it up that they were in Ohio instead, you know, just to change it up, you know, just so it could get you to, you know, look up shit that was going on in Ohio and shit like that, and how the laws were and what was the popular, because you know, you got to remember, different Chicano, you know, when we live throughout this fucking United States, we all have different experiences. You know, a Chicano that's living in San Francisco is going to have a different experience with the world than like a motherfucker living in Chicago or one living in New York. You know.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be different. It's all going to be different. So you could tap into that, but you gotta, you know, just do your research. You know. Use your family members, you know, look things up. Yeah.
That's true. No doubt, no doubt. As for someone that may be, you know what I mean, inspired to write something, but, you know what I mean, can't stick with it, they need some inspiration, they need something to keep going, what would you suggest to that person?
I would say step away from it. If you're one of those writers that, because I had gotten to this where I would like, make myself pull away, because like I sometimes I wouldn't get writer's block a lot, but I'll be writing, but I want to get more creative. So it's not like a writer's block because I can't write. It's a writer's block more where I want to say something fucking different or just twist it, you know. So when I was thinking of like, nah, you know, I want to make this story different because the last story kind of had the same type of deal, and I want to go in a different direction this time. I don't want people to think they know what the fuck I'm gonna say on my next page, you know. So when I would have those type of things, I would pull away, me personally, and I start doing other shit. Because once you start doing other stuff, you know, something clicks in here, you know, like you're watching TV and inspiration starts coming. You may not even know it. You could be watching a fucking deodorant commercial and the back of your head's like, yeah, fresh and clean. You know what I mean? So it's like later on, you know, you're fucking going to the toilet and then you come back out like that and you're like, oh, that's what I want to put in my fucking story, fresh and clean. Reminds me of that Outcast fucking song, and then it starts inciting, you know. So you just kind of pull away, and then whatever you're doing, if you're the type of person that does a lot of different things, like if you turn on the TV or you watch a lot of different stuff, or maybe you read a lot of different shit or you listen to a lot of different music, your mind will come back into focus. You come back to it. You know what I mean? That's what I could say. You know, don't beat yourself up and be in front of the fucking, because I remember I would sometimes be in front of the motherfucking computer. I'm like, and then I'll just erase the whole fucking thing. I'll press that bitch all the way down. I'll be like, why did I do that? And I'll be like trying to find a part that I saved before. And I'm like, then I walk away like, man, I'm like, fuck, I gotta just, all right, I'm gonna fucking finish my beer. I'll start again tomorrow. You know what I mean? But it's frustrating, you know, sometimes, especially when you want to like get more creative and you want to do different stuff, because sometimes writers tend to get in that same niche, you know, and they start sounding repetitive, just like with the rappers, that same fucking club song, that same, like, do something different, you know, spark something else, you know. If you have to go back to the drawing board, erase that shit and do, you know, do something different, you know what I mean? But you could still be yourself, you know, just tap into other parts of you, you know. Like, I like diversity, you know what I mean? So that's why I listen to so many different artists and I read so many different books, because it's hard to find one artist or one writer that's very diverse. A lot are very one-dimensional. You can kind of like, okay, if I read this dude's shit, I probably know what the fuck he's gonna say on that next poem or this poem. But then some, it's like a cult thing, like a cult following. Like, I know this motherfucker's gonna talk about ripping heads off, but I don't give a fuck because I just love that shit, you know. And then you read because of that, you know. So it just depends on how you feel. See, with me, I'm always up in the air. You know, sometimes sometimes I'll be critical, like, nah, that motherfucker's always talking about that bullshit, his hoe and this, nah, fuck that shit. And then, you know, I hear this other motherfucker talking about fucking, I don't know, robbing, doing beer runs and shit like that. And it's like, fuck, every time he does a fucking story about a beer run, it's a different fucking liquor store and he's trolling a different fucking worker, you know? So it's like a different, you know, like you already know what he's gonna say, but you just like, fuck it, it's just a cult thing, like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? That's why a lot of people like horrorcore or shit like that. Like, they know everything's gonna be about ripping fetuses out of fucking assholes or whatever the fuck they write about, right? It's sham and shit like that.
Like,
but
how many different ways can you say? Can you talk about the same thing though? That's what I wonder. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's dope too.
yeah. So I mean, so that's cool. So it all depends. It depends. But a lot of people like, you know, to stick with one writer. You know, that's all they like. You know, they like this writer because this writer focuses on, you know, fucking river streams and fucking butthole hair or whatever the fuck they're into, you know. So that would be their writer. Like, anytime I want to fucking know about river streams and butthole hairs, I'm going to this fool because that's my motherfucker. You know what I mean? So that's why people have favorites, you know. And then there's people that need different people, you know, depending on their mood. Like me, I always need something different, you know. There's a few, but you know what? In the writer, like the only writer that, I mean, that's like diverse to me, wow, there's really none. I don't know. I haven't really dug too much in like art people's writing to see, you know, kind of a lot of different styles. They usually stick in one lane, basically, you know. So we need more writers that are diverse, that are not scared to do different things, you know, because I think that would make us more exciting. You know what I mean? So then people ain't like, I don't like reading Chicano literature because they're always talking about cornfields, you know, or they're always, you know, they never have nothing else to say. They're always talking about homies, you know, like people sometimes we get that stigma, you know, and people are like, I don't want to, you know. Same thing with like Chicano rap. People think it's just one way, when in reality there's so many different types of Chicano rappers, you know, that rap different ways and have different styles and whatnot, you know.
So I'm gonna wrap it up. My phone's
Okay.
about to fucking die. My phone's been fucking up. But you know, first of all, I want to thank you for, you know, for your services. You know, I know you know, you have a lot to talk about with that. You know, it's a lot that you learn out there, and a lot that you will teach about when you write it. You know what I mean, about how it is life in the military for, you know, for a woman, first of all.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for, you know, allowing me this time to interview you, and you know, put some questions, you know, some questions out there for you, and you know, some of the nice answers you gave me with that, and the conversation was dope. You know what I mean? It's just what we as people need more, you know, to
Yeah,
conversate
exactly.
about these things and how we can learn about it and get better at it, at our craft. You know what I mean? That's really what this platform is about. Just talking about it, not only for myself as a writer, to learn more different ways of how to, you know, incorporate these ideas into my writing, but for others that are in the same boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for that.
All right, and thank you for having me on. I was real surprised when you hit me up. I was like, an interview? What the fuck? I never talked to anyone ever. Like, I don't even show my face online, really. So this is all new to me. But I'm glad it was, you know, my first face to face was with you, because I love writing, and especially I love writing about our people, and I love what you're doing with your hip hop podcast. You good fucking
Oh,
art
thank you.
on there, man.
Appreciate that.
A lot of good artists. I would shout them all out, but I'll take forever. But I love what you're doing on both sides, man. The writing, the hip hop, that's all like, you know, my lane. And there's a lot of us out there that love this shit, and just
There
trying
is.
to
There is.
unite that shit. You know what I mean?
Let's highlight them. Let's highlight them. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right. You have a good night.
all right,
I
you
appreciate
too.
it.
All right.
All right.
Good
Peace.
night. And thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, my people. Tuning out. Peace.